Brilliant. So good to see you, Geoff. Thanks
And
for
you, mate.
for a second time.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been nearly 2 years, or it's been over 2 years since we did the first podcast.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of months after that, I went on a walk with you and my friend
Yeah.
Carl, which was
What's your friend's name again?
Carl.
Carl, that's right. He was a good lad.
Yeah, he's a good person, Carl. Um,
How is he?
he's all right. He's had a couple of medical issues since because he's
Mm.
got cystic fibrosis. Um, and he has, come close to losing his life,
Wow.
to be honest.
Crikey.
He's had a double lung transplant a few years back,
Yeah.
and he's on medication for life for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, he's still keeping his business going. He's took a more of a back seat in terms
Mm.
of, not dealing with this daily stresses of it. Um, I'm actually involved in a project called The Hero's Journey.
Mm.
Try to get Carl involved with that. It's helped me massively in terms of, what last time we spoke about the bad habits, getting
Mm.
rid of them. It's been over 2 months since I've had a drink now, and
Good man.
the Hero's Journey has given me clear structure
Mm.
and in the five dimensions. So the professional, the finance, your career, the physical, your nutrition, your training. So like cutting out drinking is part of that
Yeah.
structure. Um, Setting goals and intentions for that as well. Then you've got the social, which are your friends, um, and you've got the emotional, your family, your mum, your dad, your spouse, and then you've got the spiritual.
Mm.
And part of the spiritual dimension for that is we've been meditating daily, going out in the woods. Me and the founder of it, Nelson, is called. And actually met him at a Mandem meetup, which is a man's mental health group that I'm a part of.
Mm.
And it was the 6th of July last day I had a drink. And not like I was, someone who drank every night, but when I played football, when I watched football and stuff like the Euros was on, I'd drink and I wouldn't really, I'd do it to a point where I couldn't control it. You know what I mean? You
Mm.
wake up. So the next day after the football, this last time I had a drink, my missus was like, woke up, you're supposed to be going to Anglesey today, which is an absolutely beautiful place. I
Mm.
said, I know. I'm definitely going because my soul needs this.
Yeah.
We went to Anglesey and met Nelson in the car on the way. He was talking about Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've heard of him. No, he's a mystic, but he puts the science behind meditation and healing
Yeah.
himself. And um,
What did he heal himself of?
yeah, he had a car accident and
Right.
crushed all the bones in his body. He used meditation to sort of heal it.
Fantastic.
He wrote a book called The Placebo Effect, and
Yeah.
he wrote this book as well called Breaking the Habit of Self. Now, I bought this book about 10 years ago, Breaking the Habit of Being
Cool.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza. His brother's a mystic, and he adopted what he taught him.
Oh, yeah. I know the name. I remember him.
Yeah. So anyway, we I went to Anglesey and met Nelson, and he was in the car on the way because we get a lift down there off someone. We got a lift down off someone, and he started speaking about Joe Dispenza. I said, "Oh, we'll have a good chat." If I've got his book, I've not really read it. I didn't have the sort of discipline to read it back then, and he was telling me everything. And he was very, polite, kind, fascinating person. And he'd let me finish when I was talking, and just give you space, like you do yourself. Um, and I was just fascinated by what he was saying. So we had a really great day at Anglesey. It's such a like mystical place as well. Like there was, have you been to Newborough Beach in Anglesey?
I haven't known.
No, it's just an outstanding place. There's a lot of history there, and just lots of great conversations were occurring from this mental health group. Like people go out in nature and they sort of forget all the troubles, don't they? And they just talk. And
Yeah.
there's people who are more advanced than you, and people who are slightly less, and you feel like you're learning. I felt like I evolved like 3 times in that car on the journey
Yeah.
down my
Yeah.
Anglesey. So anyway, after a great day there, I went swimming in the sea. There were seals there and everything, and you know, I got back. and he said, "Why don't you come meet me for a coffee and have a chat?" And then he was just showing, just telling me about, what he's thinking of doing with this project and how he'd need like a personal trainer, a meditation teacher, nutritionist. He wants to build like an online school doing it.
Mm.
So I told him, look, I'm on the process of moving house. Don't have much money to do it at the moment. So he said, let's just start and do the work. If you do the work, well, you'll all that'll come, like the money and all that stuff.
Mm.
And I'm like 3 months into it now, and all of those dimensions, and I think it's mainly due to the meditation in the morning. Um, all those dimensions in my life have started to get massively improved, and it's been easy to say no to alcohol. It's just
Mm.
been. And one other thing as well, which happened. I know I'm sharing absolutely everything with you all in
All
one
right.
go. Um, but 2 weeks after I went to Anglesey, I thought I've got to take my family down here. Um, and I took them down. But on the way there, we could have stopped at any service station, but we decided to stop at this one particular one. And when we got there, it was jam packed. It was full. You couldn't sit down anywhere. I said, "Let's go sit on the grass." And the missus was like, "No, let's walk. Let's walk round and see where we can sit." So there was a bench and there were two spaces, one for me, one for the missus. And she had the baby and the dog, but she put them on the knee and held the dog by the side. And in front of us was this old lady and a husband. And I had like a protein shake with me, and it was full. And the guy said, "Oh, what's in that?" So we started to list everything that was in it, and he was going, "Oh, right, okay." And then I went, "Oh, but it's got that as well, and that does this, that does that." And then the lady looked at me, and she went, "Rosalind, her name is," and she said, "You're a bit obsessive, aren't you?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She went, "I can just tell. Like I read energies off people. I can tell you've got, you do things, but you do it, to the extreme, or you do it too much. Like when you can let go of it, kind of thing." And then Sue, who you just seen then, like started burst out crying, and she was like, "I've been telling him that, but he don't get it. He don't listen to me." I was like, "Am I? I didn't even get it. I didn't see that I was." But she sort of grabbed my hand, and then she said, um, I'd love to come and help you and work with you if you want to come and see me one time." And I ended up going meeting her a couple of weeks later, and and I met her down the house just outside Wolverhampton. It is,
Mm.
um, and we sat there and we talked, and she said that we could help each other, and I've actually got a podcast with her on Friday. I've met up with her. She's just a really good person. She's a healer. She told me that she's healed people and lots of things about her history that she shared with me. So she said when she invited me to her house, she thought she was just going to help me, but it turns out that it's her wish now for me to get her message out to the world. So like what she's done with her life and all the gifts that she shared, like she shared with me how to visualize, and she showed me like commandments to stick to each day to sort of keep cleansing yourself. And yeah, that's kind of what's happened to me since last time I spoke to you. So quite a lot, but yeah,
Getting a lot of guidance.
yeah, a lot of guidance. Yeah,
I'd say that the core of that, as you said, would be the meditation,
yeah,
because that connects you to your own radial center, your own soul. And once you get to the soul, God will teach you. So you'll attract who you need to attract and repel who you need to repel. That's a really good sign. Then it's just a matter of doing it.
yeah,
It's a matter of putting it into action. And it's all internal, really.
yeah,
The whole job is internal. It's all an inside job. So it's working in rather than working out. But it's all of it's important. But it sounds good.
yeah. And there's lots of tests and allies and enemies on the way as well, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, you've been been giving home to lots of parasites, all of us have, for a long time, and you have to get rid of them and they don't want to go. If you're in covenant with lots of negative things, like you say with the alcohol and what other kind of negatives that you have in your life, you have a covenant with them. And they take up territory within your body, and that territory needs to be won back.
Mm.
So those enemies can be converted. They don't have to be opposing energies. They can be necessary complementary forces, but we have to have authority first. We have to win authority in our own body. We have to be the authority. And then we have to connect our kind of unitary self to God, to the source. So that becomes our great authority. So once you've got authority in the body, you don't give consent to these negative things. A lot of them we don't even know are there. You've recognized alcohol. Alcohol obviously opens the door to lots of other negative things that come in, and it affects everything in our lives. So once you get rid of that, you've got rid of the big one. And like we said about food or obsessiveness or vanity or any of the vices, really. All of the pornography, it's the sexual stuff. And it becomes more and more impeccable. You have to get more and more impeccable. There's a lovely story about a guy that I read, which I really liked. He's newly awoken and he's going for a plane and he's running through the airport and he's late for the plane, but it's an important meeting. He's got to get it. This is a very important meeting. He has to get the plane. So we already know he's out of balance still because he's late and he shouldn't be late. But he's running and he takes a chewing gum out of his pocket and unwraps it and as he's running and starts to chew it. And as he runs past the bin, he wraps it up and throws it into the bin. But as he throws it out the bin, it hits the lid, doesn't go in. And he's 100 yards up the road when he realizes that he has to go back and pick up the wrapper and put it in the bin, which he does. He stops and goes back and puts it in the bin and he misses his flight. But when he's telling the story all these years later, he can't even remember what the meeting was. Although at the time it felt like it was imperative, a really important meeting. That's the level of impeccability we need to work at. So it's working at that, not letting ourselves away with anything, because that might not seem like a big thing, but it's the beginning of something. That lack of impeccability. It's like working on the door. You let one negative through, and suddenly they open the side doors for other people and the back doors for somebody else, and suddenly you've got, you're facing a legion, not just one, seemingly kind of negative person. So we have to have authority in our own body, and the authority is what we're working for. We have to win our authority.
Yeah,
that's not with vanity. That's not with pride. It's not with with lust or any of the excesses. We contract the ego so that the consciousness can expand. So if there's any areas of our body that we haven't got autonomy over, then we haven't got autonomy. We have to have full autonomy. When we have full autonomy, when we are the authority within our own body, then we can connect to the source. We can connect to the great authority. Then you go from 3-dimensional living to 5-dimensional and beyond. You're not just connecting to your own power, you're connecting to the power of everything. You're not just connecting to your own knowledge banks, you're connecting to the knowledge banks everywhere. You can access the aeonic field or the akashic field. You can communicate with the Holy Spirit or your spirit, and you can get answers to whatever you want to get answers to. But first of all, you have to have authority in your own body, and you have to know when you've got authority, and you have to know where you haven't got authority. You have to be able to look at the areas of your life where you aren't in charge still. And like I said, it's impeccable. If you're having sex with your wife and thinking about somebody else, that's not impeccable. That's betrayal. If you're watching sexual pornography, you're inviting vampires across the threshold. If you're still like violence, that's another pornography. You're letting vampires across the threshold. If you're still thinking unkindly about people, if you're still gossiping about people, if you're still throwing your slipper at Donald Trump on the telly and having an investment in that energy, you're still not impeccable. You're still not in control. So this is about knowing where you are strong, knowing where you're weak. Like as a personal trainer, if somebody came to you, you'd be able to look at them, wouldn't you, and assess them and go, like, you'd have a half an hour chat with them. You'd know exactly what they needed to work on, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that's the same with you. You may have external teachers initially, but eventually your only teacher will be your inner tutor.
Mm.
Your soul will teach you, or God will teach you. And if you ask this higher part of yourself and say, "Where do I need to work?" it will guide you gently towards the things um, that you need to work on.
Mm.
So we want to go to higher levels of consciousness. We need energy, and that energy is tied up in lots of the things we're in covenant with. Like I said, your wife pointed out that was it Rosalind?
Rosalind, yeah.
Rosalind, she pointed out that you have an obsessive nature. Excuse me. So that's a parasite. That's an energy that has that's a force that contains lots of energy. So you've got to win that back again. That means practicing not being obsessive. Um, so we have to recognize where the energy is and win that energy back again, win that territory back again, because we're going to need all that energy.
Mm.
So the amount of energy we exert in sex, the sex energy, like with excitement, not just sexual arousal, but excitement, um, ambition, all of these kind of, anger, rage, they're all part of the sex energy. It's learning to control that. We need that. We need all of that. All of that. We need to cut away all of those subsidiary roots so that the sap can rise in one powerful direction. And that becomes all of the work. Now, your soul will guide you towards that, and I figure that it already is because it's putting the right people in front of you. And
Yeah.
of course, you have to make sure they're the right people because not everybody that's put in front of you is the right person.
Mm.
You've got to know um, whether that investment in somebody else is going to be fruitful. If it's not, like I said, you have to be careful because you can end up following every route out there rather than following the one route you need to follow, which is that internal route. And that will come through the meditation.
Yeah. Well, I've bought the Tao Te Ching as well, and I've got into a really good habit at the moment of in the observer.
Yeah,
I write down on my book five lines of gratitude, or 5 to 10 lines of gratitude, 5 to 10 affirmations, 5 to 10 lines of a journal, and then W, so what I can give to the world in those 5 dimensions. So social, emotional, professional, spiritual, and the physical. And I sort of don't know what I'm going to write, but it sort of
mm,
comes to me after a meditation, after I've done that, and I've read a verse of the Tao. Um, I've had that non-negotiable now, and I seem to be at peace with my decisions because it's coming from that still place in the
mm,
morning.
yeah,
Um, I've just bought the Bhagavad Gita as well, and just
yeah,
reading that
great.
into thingy. What I want to get good at, I want to master is what you've mastered is storytelling because I think
Mm,
it does change people's behavior massively. I've got so far with the physical fitness with people and getting them a result. But what I've tried to do now and what I've tended to do, and I think this is why I've met Rosalind, is because although she's a mystic, she's a master of NLP.
yeah,
So I think that I've tried a couple of tips and techniques that she's given me with clients to help them feel more confidence and things like
yeah,
that, basic stuff, and start getting the thinking and getting them to meditate, breath work as well. And I found that they've got a physical result due to the fact they've started to prioritize this mental.
mm,
Questioning the questioner is another good one as well. Like, why do you
yeah,
want that? Why you don't have to believe that? One thing I've
mm,
learned from the hero's journey is that we have 5 minds: the thinker, the doer, the judge, the commentator, and the observer. I'm actually doing a workshop on this as well at the end of the month, just to try and cement the knowledge again, and then help more
yeah.
people get on board with this. I don't know what your thoughts on that were.
Let me ask you this, Anthony. Where's your weak area?
Where's my weak area?
What area? If you were like a bodybuilder and the bodybuilder's looking for a symmetrical body, you could look at it and go, well, he's weak in his legs, or he needs to work on his back, or his traps aren't quite symmetrical.
I'd
Where's your
I'd
weak
say
area?
I'd say diet because it is. I am trying to get more organic food. I'm trying to cut out carbs, like processed carbs, like pasta and rice and stuff. But
Mm.
I'm losing lots of weight doing that, and I'm thinking energy as well. So I'm caught in two minds. I go, well, just have a bit of pasta now and again, or just have a bit of bread now and again. I
I
think,
think you just practice light eating, just eat less,
yeah,
just eat really light food, and what the Hindus call prasadam, food that's cooked with love, food that food that is natural for you. So like and again, it's individual. I fast 3 times a week, and the rest of the time I follow a vegan diet, mostly vegan, and and I eat light. I just eat light because we use a massive amount of energy
yeah,
digesting food we don't need.
yeah,
So I know what works for me, and I know how my body responds to it. All I'm interested in is serving God. All I'm interested in is pleasing God. And after Thomas Merton, I'm hoping that just the fact that I want to please God will please Him. So I'm in connection with this energy, whatever you want to call it, and I want to get in the rhythm of that. As you call the Tao, I want to get into the rhythm of the Tao. So nothing external is going to show me how to do that. Only anybody external is only really going to show me how to connect to my own soul. And you will go through lots of periods of following this path or following that path, or all of these different things, and they're all really good. They all lead you to something, but ultimately, we have to be able to go in, and we have to rather than be in a binary system, right, wrong, good, bad, carbs, no carbs, weight, no, all of that kind of stuff. We go into the quantum, and in the quantum, when we go internally and find that still place, this higher self recognizes us. It knows us, and it goes, "Oh, here's Anthony. He wants to work. He's woke up. He's found that this is the only teacher for him, because otherwise outside you're going through 20 different flavors and constantly changing, and there's always something new, and there's always something to evangelize about. But you go in and it'll go, this is Anthony, this is where he is, this is his dharma, this is what he's here to do, this is the pace he's able to work at, and these are the things he needs to work on." And it will start to give you a bespoke instruction, what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Then it's having the discipline to follow that. And that might lead you to lots of books and to lots of programs. And, it will certainly, in my case, it's led me into deep study. And so the sooner you can connect to that inner self and take inner instruction, and that will come to you as an intuition or as a vision, or might come to you as a voice, but you'll get guidance. And the more connected you get with that inner self, that radial self, kind of that powerful kind of magnetic force that's at the very heart of us, that's almost invisible, but it's also indivisible, can't be split, it's whole, it's eternal, and it has a massive attraction factor. It will draw everything you need into your life in order for you to serve the universe and help the universe to evolve. If you want to evolve and you do the right things to evolve, the universe will support you in every way you need. So we need to go into that part. Like, for instance, Gandhi said, bearing in mind, Gandhi, brought the British Empire to its knees just with this force. He said, "I'm so busy today, I need to meditate for 2 hours instead of one." So we don't, as we get busy, we meditate more. As we get deeper into this story, we meditate more, because that's where the instruction is. That stillness, that quietness is where the energy is. And it will say to you, it will show you, and it will say, this is the instructor. This is the authority. It will say, this is where you're losing energy. This is where you're leaking energy. This is where you're wasting energy. This is where this is where you're blocking energy. This is where you're storing energy. And obviously most of the energy that we ignore is the suffering energy. You know, we've got sins, haven't we? We've got a sin. A sin is a place where we miss the target, and we're storing those sins in us, those errors, those mistakes, and we don't want to confess them because we're ashamed of them. They are animated and they contain energy. They contain lots of energy. Everybody's suffering. Everybody around you is suffering. We see people in the world that are suffering. Can you imagine what we could do if we could take the energy that's contained within that suffering and the energy it takes to manage that suffering? If we could drive that somewhere.
Yeah.
But my energy, when I was suffering with depression, it absolutely used to wipe me out. But I was graced a way to direct that energy through my fear pyramid by writing down all the things I was afraid of and confronting them and converting them. I was able to use that massive energy of depression and drive it into something creative. I mean, it was destroying me. But the moment I turned into it and said, I'm fed up of you pushing me around, I'm fed up of you coming in, kicking my door down and taking over my life. I'm tired of that. I've got a family, I've got children, I've got things to do in this life. The moment I did that, this force within the depression said, he's ready to work. And it was directed straight down the path of my my fear pyramid. So I wrote down everything I was afraid of and confronted everything I was afraid of and climbed up this pyramid. And that took me out of factory work. It took me out of mundane living. It took me out of beige relationships. It took me out of fear. It took me out of anxiety. It thrust me like a rocket out of depression. And then I ended up going from, in my mid-20s, from being a normal guy, living an unhappy life in an unhappy marriage, in a kind of a very boring, unambitious job. I mean, I was a floor sweeper to, obviously becoming a bouncer, writing books, writing films, writing plays, tripping the light fantastic, created massively. But most of the energy came from the suffering. I was abused when I was a kid, as you know, and that created a tremendous amount of distrust, of fear, tremendous amount of suffering. That energy became root bound, and I would abuse myself and sexually self-abuse myself. So this energy needed an outlet. When I found an outlet for it, that energy, that massive energy, became 50 books, 15 films. It became thousands of articles, thousands of talks. It became a different life. I don't live that life. I'm not in that frequency anymore where I used to be. I'm not doing I'm not sweeping floors in a factory. Not that there's anything wrong with that if that's where you are, but it certainly wasn't what my ambition wanted. What my spiritual ambition was to really explore my potential and expand and evolve. And in order for me to evolve, I needed to win back all those territories. All of them contained energy. So instead of watching sexual pornography and literally ejaculating my vital energy into a tissue and wasting it, and also being possessed by the demon of that addiction, I stopped doing all that kind of stuff and I drove that energy into a creative pursuit. So when you start working in the quantum, when you start working through the meditation, you will be directed towards exactly where you need to work. Anthony Carroll, exactly where Anthony Carroll needs to work. And it will be different from everybody else. It won't be the same path. It will be different. And it may lead you on, for me, it's led me into deep reading, deep research. And all of the books I've read have highlighted what my intuition has told me and showed me where to work. When I gave up meat, it wasn't just like an intellectual thing. I just bumped into the fact that I was eating creatures. I was killing creatures. I was killing lesser evolved creatures. Excuse me. But I was still stealing their bodies and interrupting their karmic journey. And, I was part of their slaughter and part of, I would be eating a chicken on the plate and looking at it, and all I could see was a creature. So these were things that, I remember reading the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali. Patanjali said it's vital that we don't steal. And I thought, oh, that's good. I don't steal. And it said when we eat animals, we steal their bodies. I remember just it jolting me. I remember it shocking me because I didn't want to hear that because I liked meat. In fact, when I used to go to Centre Parks, when I gave up red meat, I remember thinking, what's the point of me going on holiday if I can't have a steak? What is the point? That's how invested I was in eating meat. So when as I expanded in knowledge through following my inner tutor, I bumped into parts of myself that I didn't want to see. I didn't want to see that I was an attention seeker. I didn't want to see that I was always looking to see whether girls were attracted to me because I was so insecure, because I'd been abused and I thought, I'm a piece of shit. I was always looking to be noticed. I was always looking for somebody to see me or to spot me or to be attracted to me. I didn't even know that was going on. I didn't know that parasite was there until I bumped into it one day. And the shock of bumping into this parasite within me, this dishonest part of myself that was living covert, the shock of it gave me massive anxiety for a year.
Mm.
It was so shocking, Anthony, because I just thought I did not know that was me. I didn't know that I was doing that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that mask on. But that energy, that anxiety for a year, I drove it into a book and I wrote about it in the book. I wrote about exactly what I've been showing. What we bring to light itself becomes a light. So I wasn't humble. I was full of vanity. Now that's okay. Vanity is a massive energy. All I need to do is break it down into its atomic component parts and reuse it for something like we're doing now. I'm talking and I'm using that energy. So the path is difficult because when we get knowledge, it's very painful because we suddenly think, well, yeah, I hate bullies. Then suddenly I look and realize I'm bullying my wife. Do you know how hard that is to notice?
Mm.
You want to cuddle with your wife and she doesn't want sex because she's tired. So you slam doors and you give her a cold back in bed and you're moody with that. You basically withdraw love and you give her little flashes of violence. So the next time she's a bit more likely to have sex with you. That's what I did. It's what most people do. And I couldn't believe that I was a bully in my own house. Everybody wants to get rid of the despots in the world, but not many people want to look at the despot in their own body. But the moment I saw that, I stopped doing it. But when it rose in me, if I'd leaned into my wife and she was tired, and that rage or that anger or that rejection rose in me, I had to look at it and observe it, as you said, and not identify with it until eventually it dissipated. But I'd invested in it so many times that it took all of my willpower just to sit and look at it, all of it. So I'd lean into my wife and I'd kiss her and I'd go, don't worry. If you're tired tonight, it's okay. So I by watching it and not engaging, not identifying, not believing it, by being the authority in my own body, I dismissed that lower authority, but not just dismissed it, but converted it into light. The moment it rose up and I didn't engage it, the negative tendency was released and the energy that was contained in it came over to me. It bound itself to me. I was the nearest, closest, the closest stable nucleus, the radial center. So you start to bump into parts of yourself that are violently uncomfortable. And it's took everything I've got. The fact that I worked as a bouncer helped. Because as a bouncer, people are threatening to kill you every night.
Yeah.
It's a very violent job. And you have to be able to hold your center. You have to live in your center. Because sometimes when you've had a violent situation and you get threats of comeback or threats of, going to prison, court cases, you have to hold that center sometimes for months at a time. So I was able to hold the center, but it took everything I've got. So this path of learning, this path of knowledge and love, this path of authority is a very difficult path because you have to be prepared to be uncomfortable. But because you've trained and you understand training and you understand the burn and you understand that the growth is in the burn, The growth is in the discomfort. You know how to work with that. You go, okay, it's the same emotionally, it's the same spiritually. So the more you can meditate and find that silence and go in and ask and say, I don't really know what I'm doing, please guide me. I don't know who to serve and when to serve. Please show me how to serve you. Because if I'm serving something that is omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent, then I'm serving everybody, including myself. Then I can make myself into an authoritative vessel that this energy can come into. I can conserve it, I can contain it, I can train it, and I can impose it into the world in exactly the same, in exactly the right place, and none of it will be spilt. If I'm an escrow account, if I'm just a holding account, I've got to make sure that what comes in goes out exactly where it needs to go, not a bit less, not a bit more, exactly that. So it's about authority, and it's about recognizing that the path is very exciting, but it's very exacting. It's extremely aspirational, but it asks everything of us, everything, everything, everything. But it gives everything as well. So we're evolving, and it's not about not making mistakes. It's about making more mistakes. The universe didn't evolve to where it is now without making mistakes. The universe evolved by making billions of mistakes over billions of years. And each time it calculates and thinks, I'll get it better next time, I'll get it right. And it's constantly evolving in order to find the right vessel, the perfect vessel, in order to create spirit that helps the universe to keep expanding. So really, that's the key. We can help the universe to expand in a selfless way. I want to help the universe expand even at the cost of my body and my mind. The universe will be queuing outside your door to help you, to guide you to the level that you're able to work. So the meditation, go in. All of these paths you're following, and the books you're reading the Gita. That's what the Gita is about. These are good books. They're difficult books. The Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an easy book to read, but it's a difficult book to live because it's telling you to work at an Olympic level. The Bhagavad Gita is the same. The Bhagavad Gita is it's about man's battle with perception. Our reality is based on our perception, and it's saying that in order to overcome this battle of perception, we can't do it alone. We need to surrender to Christ. We need to surrender to Krishna or to consciousness, the different names for it. When we surrender to consciousness, the work is already done. To do that, we have to sacrifice our ego. We have to sacrifice all those little covenants we've got, with all those little habits we've got, with all those little vanities. That's the work. That's what they call the greater jihad, the inner battle. So the fact that you started meditation is fantastic. You don't need to look outside yourself for anything. Everything is in you. It may direct you to different places for books and for teachings, but you go inside. The only arbiter of truth and falsity is in you. You're not going to get it in the world because there are 8.2 billion different versions of the world out there. None of them are of any interest to us. We've got to find our own self. And then from there, we've got to create our own reality. And then we'll help other people.
Yeah. So with the meditations, it's best to do them really early in the morning, right? Between, say, 3 and 5 a.m., is it? Because then you get better.
Yeah, I get up at 4. That's a very still time. The ego doesn't want you to get up at 4. The ego is revolted by that. It's very uncomfortable getting up early like that. It's a very powerful time to meditate. So eventually your whole life, depending on how far you go, Anthony, and how much you're invested in it, eventually your whole life will become a meditation. So I get up and meditate in the morning. I go for a walk and I'm meditating and doing mantras when I'm walking.
Yeah.
When I'm doing this now, this is a meditation. This is an exchange of knowledge and love. I'm taking I'm taking a negentropic energy. A negentropic means it doesn't entropy, it doesn't dissolve, it increases. And I'm making it more negentropic by sharing it with you and the people who are watching this. So whoever watches this is going to help this energy to expand because I'm giving it from a place of selflessness. I'm giving it from a place of love. So my writing is meditation. Then I meditate in the afternoon. And then, I'm when I sit down at night, when I sit down to watch television at night, that becomes a meditation because a part of what I'm doing, I'm making sure I'm not watching any shit. I'm not taking any negativity in to the best of my ability. Sometimes you get caught. And eventually, your whole life, you think, I want to do this all the time. This is what I want to do. So you reduce your footprint so that you can be in meditation. You can be in constant prayer. There's so much I want to do. There's so much I want to read. There's so much I want to study. When I'm reading, I'm meditating. But the pure meditation is to just go into stillness, no tricks. You might ask a question before you go in, but you're not even visualizing. You're just going in and you're finding stillness, complete stillness, and you're letting this energy, this massive energy, come to you, and it'll show you little vignettes of where you need to be, what you need to do.
Do you do any techniques to to bring about the stillness, to quieten the mind, such as say breathing in and out slowly or anything like that before the start of your meditation?
Again, there are different versions of meditation, and
Yeah,
it's trying to find the one that suits you. Because there are so many,
yeah.
people tend to get confused and they end up doing nothing because there's so many. So I tend to encourage people to do TM, transcendental meditation, because I've seen so many great miracles of that. It's not a meditation I do. My own meditation is a bespoke one. So I use beads, I've got a rosary ring. So I basically do. I'll sit and do a mantra. I use the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. In esoteric language, it's saying, um, it's recognizing the Christ energy, and have mercy. Mercy means to exchange. It means please take any negative from me and replace it with goodness. That's what it means. So I'm saying, I'm here. I've made mistakes. I've sinned. I've missed the target. Please take that negative energy from me and clean it and replace it with something good. That's basically what you're saying, but you're saying it in a short prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. You might have a non-religious prayer, but they're all religious, really, because religion means to align to love or to align to the source. So whatever we're doing, we're using it to align. So you might use a Buddhist mantra, you know, impervious, unsatisfactory, not self. Impervious, unsatisfactory, not self. Something like that. Or you might use the Jesus prayer, or you might just use with TM, they have their own specific, each person has their own specific word or mantra. So the word itself is just like a boat that gets you across the river until you hit stillness.
Mm.
When you hit stillness, then you just observe, just watch, and just wait for it to come.
Do you do any
So that's what I use.
visualization?
Yeah, I do visualization as a specific thing. It's a specific meditation. I only do it if I'm called to do it.
Okay.
When we moved into this place where I live now, uh, we kind of bought this plot and it was being built by these builders. And I just presumed because we were spending a lot of money, they would just do it and I wouldn't have to push them. But it didn't work. They were doing everything but finishing my place. So I recognized when I asked for guidance that I wasn't bringing it into fruition. I was being lazy. I needed to be on the phone and I needed to also sit down every night and visualize. So I got the plan out of the building, and every night in the plan, every day in the plan, I would walk around that plan in my mind and touch the walls, touch the house,
Mm.
see the rooms, put myself in the rooms and the moment I started to do that, the house started to come together. Now I'm in it. So I absolutely had to visualize that. When I won my BAFTA, I had to visualize myself at the BAFTAs, holding the BAFTA, feeling the weight of it, touching the cold brass, imagining me showing it to friends. I would turn up and have a coffee with friends and I'd take out my bag and say, what do you think about that? So I would visualize myself doing that. First time I tried to visualize it, it was good because I had lots of opposition. Lots of voices come up that said I wasn't worth it. I was being greedy. It was vanity. doesn't mean anything. It's egoic. All these blocks came up. But I knew that I needed to get that because it was a key. It was a conversion of negative energy into positive. So I converted a very powerful story about my brother dying from alcohol into a film that won the BAFTA. So I converted darkness into light. That BAFTA became a key that I could use to go into prisons, go into hospitals and talk to people. It got me in and it got me out. Also gave me a key to earn money if I wanted to earn money. It gave me the key to make more films because people would go, oh, he must be good. He's got a BAFTA, you know. But I had to visualize that. First time I couldn't do it. We got nominated for a BAFTA, but we didn't win. So I just couldn't visualize it. The second time we got nominated, a year later, I went into the meditation and I said, we do deserve this. And I know what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to go out. I remember sitting in the car outside BAFTA, and the guy that won the BAFTA of the year, we didn't win it. He got the trophy, and I said, "Would you mind if I hold it?" He said, "No, I'll hold it." He said, "A lot of fuss over a trophy." It was kind of quite nonchalant, quite arrogant about it. And my wife said to me, "If we win a BAFTA, we will do something with it. We will serve with it." That's what she said, and that's what we did. So the second time when I went to visualize it, I visualized it and I saw it. And when we got there, we won it. But I saw it. But I'll tell you a story. Um, when we'd written Bouncer, I went into the meditation to try and see myself win the BAFTA. And when I tried to go to when I went to actually visualize the trophy and went to it and looked at it, I looked at it and I tried to visualize the trophy. And on the plaque, it said, brown paper bag. Now, we'd made a film called Bouncer and we'd been nominated for a BAFTA, but on the trophy, it said brown paper bag. And I said to the producer, I've just had a vision of us winning a BAFTA for brown paper bags. He said, we haven't made brown paper bag. I said, I know, it was a script. We hadn't made it. She said, maybe it meant bouncer. I said, maybe, but that's not what it said. It said brown paper bag. So we went to the BAFTAs and we didn't win. And then a year later, she rang me. She said, we've been nominated again for a BAFTA for brown paper bag. And she said to me, you saw this? I said, yes, I did. And that was it. So the visualization didn't just encourage me. The visualization didn't just encourage me to remove all the obstacles, all of the negative blocks. It also said, by this time next year, you will be ready, but you need to remove those blocks. All those negative voices needed to be removed. So the next time I visualized, I created a tunnel. I put the BAFTA at the end of it. I visualized it and I knew what we were going to do with it. We were going to serve with it. And all of those negatives tried to come in and I just pushed them away. I was the authority. I said, I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm aiming for this. I know what I'm going to do with it. And I became the authority over the visualization. So I do it if there's something specific I need to do. And I'm not always instructed. You need to visualize this. Like if there's an illness or an injury or if somebody's suffering, I will use visualization for that. But it's a separate meditation. The meditation where I go to silence is a meditation of silence. If I do visualization, I set it up and it's separate. Often I'll just let myself daydream with it. And I've got certain key things that I can use. And I don't visualize, say, being nominated for an Oscar. I visualize myself beyond the Oscar, sitting in a cafe with my friends saying, what do you think about that? Or standing in a prison and saying, don't tell me, talking to the inmates, don't tell me it's not possible, because I'm proof it's possible. And don't think that this trophy is an ego extension. This is a key and it's a workhorse. It's spirit. It wants to go somewhere. It wants to talk to people. You put that in front of people and let them hold it, let them touch it. They cannot deny that everything is possible. There's a lovely scene in one of the acts of Jesus where his apostles have gone out, Anthony, to preach, and he's telling them to go out and practice the miracles and to preach to people. But they're still learning, so they've made a bit of a mess of it. So they come back from one territory, and rather than improving it, they've left different fractions of the society at war with each other, four different tribes. So Jesus has to go back with his apostles to fix their mistakes. So when he gets there, I'm watching this. This is a like a film depiction of it. I'm watching it, and Jesus walks in, and he's got these warring tribes, and they are warring tribes, and he's got to go in and try and straighten up this mess that his apostles have made. And I'm genuinely sitting there thinking, there is nothing he can say that is going to stop these from killing each other. These people, they don't care about him. They don't know him. They don't rate him. He's just some, would-be prophet that's walking into their territory. And he's walking in, and I'm thinking, he is not going to convince them. There's no way he's going to convince them. And I'm trying to figure out what he could possibly say. And as he's standing there and they're all arguing and shouting and screaming and they want to kill each other, this cripple comes out of the like in the sense of a biblical, like proper someone that's born with the deformity, comes out of the crowd and he's on crutches, and all of the four tribes know him because they're all local, so they all know he's been this way since birth. It's not like he's a fake. And he comes out, and one of the apostles, he says, "Can you heal me?" And one of the apostles says, "Move on. He's doing important business here. He's got to talk to this tribe. He hasn't got time to be dealing with you." This guy was like a rough sleeper. It looked like a rough sleeper, like really down and out.
Yeah.
Jesus goes, "No, no, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to do that." And he heals this person in front of all of these four tribes. You literally watch him transform. The crutch is dropped and he's healed. Boom. Everybody wants to sit down and listen to him because of the miracle, not because of something he said, something he did. If you have depression and medical science doesn't really know how to get rid of all that, they're not quite sure even what it is and how it works. They've got tablets and all this kind of stuff. But if you can see that as an energy and you can convert it into light and you can heal yourself from that debilitating disease, that's a miracle. And when I stand in front of people and talk to them about what I'm doing, they listen because they know I've climbed out of that. If you've got a brother that's died from alcohol and it's destroying the family and the family are at war over it and there's lots of shame and lots of arguments going on, and the dad turns up pissed, and the sister turns up at the hospital pissed, and there's all sorts of confusion. If you can take that story and turn that shame and that dissonance, that confusion into a beautiful film that wins a BAFTA, you can take that to people and say it's possible. I've converted that story into something beautiful. All of the confusion went, all of the anger went, all of the hatred went, all of the fear went, all of the shame disappeared. It's in that trophy. It's been turned into something. So that's a miracle. So that's like a modern day miracle. So when you can turn up and you can show somebody a modern day miracle, and don't forget, you are the miracle. This is just an extension of it. They listen to you. If you turn up and you've got a room full of, 200, like when I went to Las Vegas, and you got like 200 of the top black belts in America. I've been invited over by Chuck Norris to teach. And, the Machados are there, Benny Urquidez is there, some of the best martial artists in the world. They're not going to listen to you unless you can produce a miracle. So I bring my wife out, who's a senior martial artist, and when she hits the pad, she hits the pad like a professional boxer. When she hits the pad, this slight girl, and you get this spark of light, literally the room broke into spontaneous applause and everybody wanted to listen to me for the next 4 hours. You have to be able to provide a miracle. So the miracle might be a trophy, might be an award, it might be a demonstrative punch, it might be a physique. If Dorian Yates walks into the room and he starts to speak, people listen because he's produced a miracle, hasn't he, in his life? He's, as this bodybuilder, as this kind of god of, the bodybuilding world, people listen because he's created a miracle. He's transformed one thing into another. So all this stuff that's demonstrated by Christ and by the Buddha and by Muhammad and all the great prophets. We've got to see what these exaggerated examples are in subtle form. If you want people to listen to you, you have to be the living exemplar of what you're teaching. You have to live it. You have to be able to produce it. As one of my friends said once, when I was talking about my proofs, I bring the proofs, my books, the miracles, the things that people think aren't possible. He said, wouldn't it be nice to just turn up and be the proof? So ultimately, that's what we are. If we're sat in a room full of people, those people should be better protected just because we're there. If I'm sat in a cafe for long enough and I've got that radial center, even if they don't know me, even if I'm anonymous to them, the profit in that cafe should change. The clientele should improve. The business should improve. People in the room should feel inspired. They should have aspiration. Negative people will be drawn away from you. Positive people will be drawn in, even if they don't know you. That's the power of that center. It's not you. It isn't Anthony. It's not Geoff. It's beyond the personality. So you have to be the miracle. And to be the miracle, you have to have authority. Authority over your own body, over your own mind is a miracle. How many people do you know have got that? Probably if you can count them on one hand, you're very lucky. Very few people have authority over themselves. Very few people even know what that means. And very few people will venture on that journey. So we've got to be able to create a miracle in order to show people it's possible. We've got to be able to stand in front of people so they cannot deny that it's possible. When my friend was dying, he was suffering with cancer, and I was blessed to have a little bit of time with him before he died. He said he saw death at the hospital. He said he was ill and he was suffering, and he hobbled to the toilet in the middle of the night. He's got one of those trolleys that is carrying his drip, and he said he was very, very low, very depressed. He said, and when he got into the toilet, he said he sat down and he looked in front of him and he saw death. Death appeared in front of him. He said he felt this overwhelming terror. He said he wanted to turn away, he wanted to run away, but he just thought, fuck it, to quote him. He said, okay, you're here. Let's have a look. What have you got? I'm happy. I want to understand. And he said, and it just turned into a Christ energy. He said he felt this overwhelming bliss, and he suddenly felt at complete peace with his pathology, with his the fact that he was dying. When I met him, he said to me, "I need to meet you. I need to talk to you." And I said, I met him. I had a chat with him. I took him up to BAFTA in London, and I said to him, "You're close to death." So I said, "You're seeing things." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm seeing through all the bullshit." I said, "What do you see with me? Why is it important? Is it important that I go and talk to people? Is that where God wants me? And if it is important, why is it important?" And he said, "It's important, Geoff, because I'm paraphrasing, but he said, because of the things you've done, because of the things you've created, things that felt impossible to you as a kid, things that are miracles to you as a kid." He said, "You need to stand in front of people and talk to people so that they cannot deny that it's possible. They can't deny that you're ordinary, but you're extraordinary. They can't deny that you're human and that you've got all the frailties that most humans have got. And they can't deny that you've done the things you said you were going to do. So it's important to be in front of people. From a distance, they can go, 'Oh yeah, it's different for him.' I remember walking with one of my friends. He goes, I think it was like the day after I'd won the BAFTA or something like that. It was something big anyway. And the day before, I was just like to him, I was an ordinary guy. No, it was just before I published my book. Before I published my book, nobody really knew about it. And then it came out. And in our world, that's a miracle. No, we didn't know anybody that had ever done that. Nobody. Never met anybody, didn't know anybody. Something out there. And this was a guy that had walked with me and knew me since I was a kid. And he arranged to meet me and I walked with him. I knew him from when I was like 11. And he knew I was ordinary. He knew I was, I went to the same school and everything. And when I walked around and told him about the book, he goes, "Yeah, but it's different for you though, Geoff. You're different." And I said, "No, I'm not." And that automatically, he gave himself an excuse for his not meeting his own potential. I can't meet my potential. Geoff can because he's different, but I wasn't different. If I can do it, he can do it. And in fact, this same guy now has published 2 books. But you see what I mean? How people will make an excuse, but it's different from you. But when you're in front of people and you go, no, that's not true. Just like you, look at me, remember me, look at me. When you stand in front of people and say it's possible, they feel that certainty.
Mm.
They feel that center. But but if you stand in front of people and you aren't living that center, you're not in that center. If you're not in the room, they'll know. They'll know. Don't turn up at these places and preach that stuff if you don't know it, if you're not feeling it, if you're not in the center of it. So it's the miracle, the moment, you go into a class full of 200 people and someone holds the pad and you go boom and you hit the pad and that little explosion when you hit it right. Very few people can get it. When you get it, people go bang. It's a little miracle, and they listen. They lean into it. They literally lean into it to listen because you have demonstrated that you can walk your talk. You've demonstrated that you can make that miracle happen. One friend said to me, I'm trying to tell my wife about manifestation and how it's possible and how we can have anything, we can do anything. But she doesn't believe me. She scoffs at me. And I've told this story a lot. My problem is I haven't told it enough times. I need to tell it more. And I said to him, well, she won't believe you because you're 6 stone overweight. So why would she believe you? I said, you don't believe you. If it's possible, why are you 6 stone overweight? Why are you carrying this? You're obese. And I wasn't insulting him. I was just saying the reason she doesn't believe you is because you're not proving it with your own body, with your own life. I said, believe me, if you've got your weight down and said, okay, let's see whether this magic works. I'm going to do it on my own body. I'm going to prove it's possible by taking command, taking authority over this body, not just over the body, Anthony, but over the denials. This guy wasn't heavy because he was overeating. He said he was heavy because he needed the timber. He wasn't overeat. He wasn't overweight because he couldn't control his food. He was overweight deliberately because he needed timber because he worked in a pub. Actually, he was overweight because he got an addiction, and his problem wasn't the food. The problem was the denial. So my job as a teacher was to say there's denial there, and that's block. But I said, if you can get your body right, you won't have to tell your wife it's possible. She'll believe you because she'll see the proof. And if you do talk to her, she'll listen to everything you say because you're living it. Yeah. You are living it. You have demonstrated the miracle because we know, again, how difficult it is. Again, you could probably count on one hand how many people you know who can control palate, properly control palate. Not many people can control the gross physical body. Not many people can control the breath body. Certainly not many people can control the intellectual and the mind body. And very few people have got autonomy over their own will. So they haven't got authority within their own body, even though they might be living, successful lives in other ways. Yeah. So we've got to be able to create the miracle in order to that people listen to us, and then when they listen to us, they can go off and they can be proof of the miracle themselves.
Would you be able to describe what you told me previously and that you've wrote about in your book about the causal will, the senses in the description of like a horse and cart, the reins of the mind, the horse is the senses, and then you've got the passenger is the ego, but the ego is drunk. Would you be able to lay that out and just describe each?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Hindu thing, really. It's explaining. It's from the Vedas, right. And it's the concept that we're like a horse and carriage, and the horses are the senses, but they're not controlled, so they're pulling the chariot in all sorts of directions. The reins and the driver are our control over the senses, but the reins aren't connected, and the driver's pissed. The carriage is the container, that's the egg, the vessel. But of course, it's not looked after, it's not kept up to date, it's a bit dented, it's a bit off. The wheels represent being true. Like if a wheel's not true, it won't go straight. And the driver, the passenger, basically is any new flavour that's in town. We're taking anything from the local prostitute to the vicar to the, you know, to the gangsters, whoever wants to jump in the back of our chariot Uber, you know, determines where it goes. So we're not in charge of it. We're just, you know, whatever's on the telly today, the latest conditioning, the latest fear, the latest, you know, flavor, whatever it is, that's what sits in the back and determines where it goes. But of course, it's all out of balance because the horses and the senses are wild, the reins aren't attached, the driver is drunk, the wheels aren't true, and the passenger, you know, is just anybody that wants to pay the fare. You know, if you're sitting watching sexual pornography, that's the passenger. If you're angry at something or at somebody and gossip about them, that's the passenger. You know, if you go into a rage or if you're flirting at work, that's the passenger. So what we need to do is to recognize that we need to get control of the senses. We need to make the wheels true. We need to get the carriage correct. We need to make sure that the driver is sober, is awake, and that the reins are connected to the horse. We need to make sure that the wheels are all true. And when we do that, the only passenger that we'll get will be a royal passenger, and that will be the soul. You won't attract a royal passenger. You won't attract the soul until the rest of it is in order.
How do you make the wheels true? What are the wheels again?
So the wheels represent religion. In other words, true. You know, like when they talk about a wheel being true, about it being completely
Oh,
spherical, completely round,
right.
they call it true. So if the wheels aren't true, if we haven't got an aligned religion, if we haven't got a faith, you know, then everything we do is going to be going, you know, is going to be going off in the wrong direction. We're not, you know, if you've got a bike with a buckled wheel, it's not going to go very far, is it?
Yeah. What does that look like in practical, physical reality? Making a
But
true.
that means that um, your thinking, your saying, and your doing needs to be aligned to wisdom and love. They need to be in accord with wisdom and love.
So you,
That's true authority.
so you would need daily awareness and reflection then in the form of journaling, thinking in ink, stinking in ink, as you've
Yeah,
spoke
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
about. Like this is all part of what makes a good working. So obviously we need to work out, but as I've said before, the clients who aren't getting the physical result, we're going back to this mental side and using things like gratitude affirmations, journaling, and that's what helps contribute
yeah.
to getting a true wheel. Thinking, doing, saying, it's all aligned.
But you need to be true if you're going to lead them.
Yeah.
Your job is to make sure that you're true, and if you're not true, if you're not completely congruent, then you can become congruent by saying, I'm not, you know, I'm still working on this myself. Like someone said to Zig Ziglar, do you really believe that he's a great motivational coach? Someone said to him in the crowd, do you really believe this stuff? And he goes, yeah, I live it. He says, but you don't. He says, what do you mean? He says, you're 4 stone overweight. He goes, good point. So he went away and lost 4 stone. And he come back and he said, listen to everything I say. Don't look at me too closely because I'm still working on this. I'm still working on it and I fall out of alignment. So being congruent doesn't mean that we're perfect all the time. It means that we're honest about our own failings, our own mistakes, our own weaknesses.
I found like when you said before, where are you weak, Anthony? It took me a while to come up and think of it. And I sometimes ask myself that, but I don't write it down straight away. And I go back to try and remember it, but it's gone. So it's like
Yeah.
self's kind of hiding it. So you have to
Mm,
be like you've said in the past, a sharpshooter on a hill watching that,
yeah.
get
You've got
it.
to observe it. Yeah. You've got to have
Forget again.
laser vision. You've got to just keep watching. And when it rises,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to discern. Reflection, the word reflection you mentioned is very powerful. We reflect on these things. Is this kind? Is what I'm going to say kind? Is this true? Is it qualified? No. Am I living this? You'll have no power if you're not living it. If you are living it, listen. When I worked on the door, I found a truth, and the truth was uncomfortable for everybody in the martial arts that when I was teaching. My teachers didn't want to know it. My seniors didn't want to know it. The people in the martial art, a lot of the people in the martial arts were very affronted by what I was teaching. But what I found was so true. This little tiny nightclub in an armpit in the corner of Coventry. I found this truth that was so powerful that it created a radial force that got me noticed all around the world. And I got invited all around the world to teach. I got invited to to teach for Chuck Norris in Las Vegas 3 times. I only went twice, but I got invited 3 times, all expenses paid. They paid me to teach. I got invited out there because that radial truth was so powerful. It drew Chuck Norris. In fact, it started in Australia. A great Brazilian jiu-jitsu master out there called John B. Will read one of my books, and he gave it to a guy called Richard Norton, who was a big Australian martial artist, and he loved it. And he was in the films with Chuck Norris. So when he went to America, he gave it to Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris read it, and that's where the invite came from. So that truth that I found in a nightclub working as a bouncer in Coventry had such an attraction that it drew attention from everywhere. So I ended up, the books ended up in about 20 odd languages, and they're still selling. But that truth, that we're actually on top of that. I didn't have to go to Japan to find that truth. I could have found that truth in my bedroom, which I did. When I got tired of depression, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. This idea for the fear pyramid fell into that radial center and helped me to build it. So I started to build this center, this powerful center, like the center of it, like the nucleus of an atom. It's only 0.1% of the mass of an atom, 0.1%, but it contains 99.9% of the mass. So it's only 1.1% of the volume of the actual size, but it contains 99.9% of the mass. So can you imagine something that's invisible to the eye, and that is a tiny, tiny fraction of the volume of an atom, but it contains nearly all of the mass. In other words, like if you've got a bowling ball and you've got a basketball, they've got the same volume, haven't they? They're the same size, but they're not the same mass, are they? If I dropped a bowling ball on your foot, you'd know, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
A basketball is nothing, it's light, but a bowling ball. So we've got to get, when we've got the mass, when we've got that mass in the center, it's not got much volume. We draw all the mass from the voluminous stuff, from all the negatives, and we create this mass within us that creates a powerful black hole. It's literally like a black hole in our very center that draws everything we need towards us, and it repels everything that's not necessary.
Yeah.
But that's in us. That's in us. We are made of atoms. We're made of electrons and protons and neutrons, and they are, electrons particularly are considered to be black holes in themselves. They have a tremendous magnetic force. So can you imagine if you have authority over all of those atomic parts, and there are billions, if you have authority over them, over all of those separate atomic particles, can you imagine the power you would have to create in the world? This is why Jesus was able to command the sea, because he was aware that he was connected to all of that. His center was so strong that he was able to command the sea. He was able to stand on top of the sea. He was able to command the storm because his center was so strong. But that's not like just a metaphor. That's something that's metaphysical, something that actually happens. I had a meditation yesterday, and very powerful meditation. And I found myself at the sea, and the sea knew me. It was aware of me. It knew who I was. It knew who I was. It welcomed me. I was aware that the sea was in me, that I was part of the sea. But I was aware that I was an important part of it. When I came, it recognized me. I'd come home. The sea knew who I was. And I knew that at some level, if I needed to, I would be able to control the sea and control the waves, of course, because it's just an extension of what's in me. Many years ago, I did a lot of very, very, very difficult mentoring with some really astute people. And it was very challenging for me because they were really sharp people, really kind of high end of business, high end of government. And I remember sitting in Leicester Square after one particular session, and I sat there with a coffee, and I looked up, and the sun was not the sun. And my wife used to say to me, don't tell people the sun story, because they won't understand. But I think people do. But when I meditated, I mean, I sat after that incident, Anthony, I sat for months. I would sit outside where I used to live. I'd sit outside and Sharon would bring me a cup of coffee and I would just sit with my sunglasses on and look at the sun, trying to understand it. And I'd watch how it reflected and made all the leaves gold. And it spoke to me, and it was a radial force. It was coming out like that. And I recognized after much reflection that the sun was in me. It was on the edge of my consciousness. It was a part of me. You know, when I was looking at it, I recognized it as a sentient being, as an energy, as a life force that knew me, that was familiar with me, that welcomed me, and fed me. And I recognized that it was in me. So it was literally inside me. You know, not inside this skin, but inside me, inside what you would call my soul. So it's coming back to what I said before. If we're going to help people, we need to help ourselves. If we're gonna heal people, we first need to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
And they need to see that miracle. They need to see that, and they need to know. Like when I was teaching martial arts, people didn't deny that what I said because I was so certain. I was living it. I was doing it. It was to me. It was as obvious as saying you're wearing a blue top. People felt that certainty. It wasn't like I was guessing it. So it's we need to be able to create a miracle, and that might be just getting your body right. People will go, I want to talk to this guy because this guy's got his body right. But if other parts aren't right, you might reject a few of them. If you've got your body right, but you've still got agenda, you know, you're still, flirting with your students, or, trying to get, trying to get follows because someone you're teaching has got a lot of followers or got a lot of money. If there's still agenda within you, you're not congruent. There's part of you that's not in alignment with selfless service.
With that,
So
though, it doesn't necessarily mean that the thoughts are going to stop. It's just that you get very faster or more efficient at holding them at the door and then
yeah,
converting them, or just not even entertaining them, like just
yeah,
smiling at them kind of thing. But you're always going to be, like you said in the past, they're always going to be pressing against the glass, trying to
yeah,
take what you've, built up a spiritual treasure chest of gold.
yeah.
They're trying to take.
There's always something. It's the energy is always pressing against the
It's
glass. There's always
about
pressure.
beating yourself up that you're still having these thoughts. It's just a case of that. There it is, gone, kind of thing. And
Yeah, you watch it. Yeah,
if you do trip up and make a mistake, then it's
yeah,
down, and then it's go again, isn't it? Is that right?
yeah. The problem is not that we make mistakes; is that we don't make enough mistakes. We don't want to make mistakes because we're too afraid to make mistakes. But the universe doesn't evolve uh, in a perfect manner. It evolves by making billions of mistakes. It's constantly computing and trying different things, different methods to try and find a perfect vessel to create spirit or to birth spirit. So, in order to get where it is today, it's gone through billions and billions of mistakes. We don't make enough mistakes. The key is not that. That is the key is not to not make mistakes. It's to not make the same mistake twice. To try and learn from the mistake. If we make a mistake, we try and learn from it and move on. But we are going to make mistakes, otherwise we're not going to evolve. We don't get authority and perfect knowledge without making mistakes. But the key is to go, I made a mistake, I own it, I confess it, please accept my apology, and move on. I'll do my best not to make that same mistake again. And then we learn from it. Most people make a mistake and then they carry it for the rest of their life. The mistake stuck inside them as an old sin, as an old energy, and they never convert it. So for me, it's, when I started on this path of evolution through revolution, the revolution was in me and it created an evolution. My inner tutor would bring up elements that I hadn't converted. You haven't looked at this yet. So when I wrote notes from a factory
One of your
floor,
tutors, was it, you said?
my inner tutor,
Oh, your inner tutor. Oh, yeah. I
yeah,
did want to ask you a question before, like how many and what kind of physical tutors did you go through spiritually in order to, then let go of them? But
yeah,
I'll ask you that in a minute. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I didn't. Yeah, I was always looking for spiritual tutors. I went and seen the Zen master, and I went to see a few different people, and my wife said to me, "You're wasting your time. That's not where God wants you. He wants you to find your inner tutor. He wants you to go directly to him."
Rosalind sort of said to me when I first met her at that thing, I was like, "Oh, I'm dead excited. I'm on this course called the Hero's Journey. It's going to cost a year." And she's like, "It's about going to teach me to be a life coach and heal myself and all that." And she said, "You don't need it. I'll show you what you need." And then that was it. So it's kind of like two. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
A good tutor, a good guru, a good mystic will direct you only
Yeah,
to yourself.
yeah,
And if you're falling out of alignment, they'll just say, "Oh, you're falling out of alignment. You know,
yeah,
you're falling out of alignment. You're falling into an old personality." So they'll tell you how to find your inner tutor. They won't consider themselves your tutor or your guide,
yeah.
just a guide to find your own guide.
Opener of the ways, not
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I go directly to God. I go through, I often talk to angelic guides, but I go directly to God and just say, "Where do you want me? I just want to serve you." So all of those doors were closed to me. It's not like I didn't want one. I did look, and of course, all of the, you learn eventually that um, whether the guide is corporeal or incorporeal, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same. So it's not that I haven't got guides. I have. I've got people like, Hafiz, Rumi, Al Ghazali. I've got Christ. I've got Muhammad. I've got all of these incorporeal spirits. I've got Milarepa. I've got Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi's come to me 3 times now, once in real life and twice in visions. Milarepa came to me in a very striking vision and showed me where my energy was trapped. It was the most, I didn't even know who he was. I just put this description into the internet because he came to me as a kind of small green man, and he was so full of love. And I just felt overwhelmed. I sobbed when I saw him, when he spoke to me, and he showed me how to heal, and he showed me why I wasn't healing. Then when I put it into the internet and looked it up, there was a picture of Milarepa, and he was green because he lived in a cave and he lived off nettles for many years. So his skin turned green. But it was so I. It's not that I haven't got teachers, but they haven't. Most of them haven't been corporeal. Although in that respect, everybody that I speak to becomes my teacher. So when I'm talking to you now, it's a reciprocal experience where I'll learn something from you. Um, as you said, you met Rosalind. Someone just turns up randomly, and that can become a teacher. Somebody, might walk past you and say something to their friend, and it's a message that you pick up. So everybody becomes your teacher. Everything becomes your teacher. Even the beings in my house are my teachers. So everything is sentient. Everything is teaching me. So it's not like I don't have a teacher. It's just that I don't have a specific teacher. I Everything is teaching me, other than my own inner tutor.
I get what you're saying. I do think that it is important as well when you transition in, say, the second self to the organic self, that you have a physical teacher with structure as well. Because I know that when we last spoke 2 years ago, I was up here and I was
Yeah,
loads of advice and I was going, but my energy was going, and then I fell back into the old habits
yeah.
for a certain period. But I feel like with the hero's journey now, I've got structure and I'm seeing
Mm,
tangible evidence that I'm improving in those 5 dimensions. And having someone else to go and meditate with in a group in the forest, like getting yourself
yeah,
like the hero's journey, it's built off the story, A Hero with a Thousand Faces. Have you heard of it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Campbell.
yeah. So it's like this is sort of like a physical version, but I feel like having that structure has enabled me to create clear vision for the future, and it's that what's keeping me on track. So
Yeah,
as beautiful and amazing it was the talk that we first had, and I was up there, I felt like I was on my own after that, and it was
yeah,
going back into the old ways. But now, with this sort of clarity and
yeah.
where I'm going, yeah, I like to say, like you say, I probably will let go of it and then go within because I'm
But
cultivating that
yeah,
and itself's growing within me now, getting a lot
everybody's going
into,
to get a different instruction, Anthony.
yeah,
Everybody's going to be given different instruction, and it's not saying that a physical guru is not important or that you don't need it. It's just saying you're asking me about my guru, and
yeah,
that wasn't my instruction. That wasn't what I got. It doesn't mean it's not your instruction.
yeah,
And it doesn't mean that it isn't other people's instruction. And it's not like I didn't look for it in martial arts. I went and sought out great teachers. I had amazing teachers. But like I said, in a sense, everybody's teaching me. I'm learning from everybody, and I'm learning from, I spoke to a heron at Coombe Abbey, and the heron taught me about invisibility. And it taught me about, I spoke to it and I said, what are you showing me? And it taught me about, it was stood there so still, so silent. I thought it was plastic. It was in the water. And everyone was looking and going, walking past, is it plastic? Is it real? And it was so still. And everybody just wandered off. So I just stood there and thought, I'm just going to wait and watch. And I wait and watched, and it caught 5 fish while I was there. But it was so still. And I spoke to it. And I said, what are you showing me? He said, I'm teaching you about invisibility. He said, the fish don't even know I'm here. He said, they don't know I'm here. They're swimming around my feet. They don't know I'm here because I'm so still. I'm invisible to them. And then later, when I wrote about this, it said to me, you think I'm teaching you about invisibility, but really I'm teaching you physics. I'm teaching you to be a still nucleus. He said, and I'm not really teaching you how to fish. I'm not teaching you how to steal fish. I'm saying that if you're still, if you're silent, those fish will come to you. They'll be drawn to your radial sensor, and they will sacrifice themselves to you in order that you can perform your service in order to serve God. Mm-hmm. So that was my teacher. The heron spoke to me. The heron taught me. I spoke to a tree one day. I was going through some problems, some internal stuff. I hadn't got an external teacher to speak to, so I stood in front of a tree. It's an oak tree, and in mystic law, they call the oak tree the tree of doors. And I just said, I'm struggling. What can you show me? I said, I'm looking at your roots, and you're so grounded. You're so powerful. I said, and I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm in the breeze. I feel like I'm like washing on the line, being blown this way and that. And I just sat there and found complete stillness. And suddenly, the branches of the tree started to look like elephant trunks. And the roots of the tree looked like elephant's feet. And little nodules coming out of the tree looked like elephant's eyes. And I just kept seeing elephants. And this voice said, look out for the elephant. And I didn't know what it meant. And I thought, well, I've written a book called The Elephant in the Twig. Maybe it means that. I didn't really understand it. So I went home, literally went home, switched on my computer. I went to my emails, and there was an email from somebody, and he mentioned the word elephant half a dozen times in the email. And he was talking about Shackleton, who'd, done this, took his ship and his crew into the North Atlantic somewhere, and the ship had got stuck. This guy had written to me, he said, listen, your books really helped me. I was going through a difficult time, and they really helped me. And so I just wanted to recommend this book to you because I just thought it might speak to you. And he recommended this book called Endurance, about this journey that Shackleton did, where they got stuck in the ice and they ended up having to find sanctuary on Elephant Island. That's why the word elephant kept coming up.
This is synchronicity, right?
Yeah. Well, it was the tree told me. Yeah. The tree actually showed me elephants, and they said, look out for the elephant. I went home, and there was an email with elephants in. So I bought the book and I read it, and it brought great peace to me.
Yeah. So
it showed that they went through this endurance, and they endured it. And for the time they were there, they were wet for 18 months. They couldn't get dry, but Shackleton kept all of the crew disciplined. They were intense, and they were sweeping up every day. They were playing games. They were singing. He did not let them lose discipline. And if any of them stepped out of line, like one particular bloke kept trying to be negative and saying to them, look, we're all going to die here. We're never going to get rescued. It's terrible. And when he brought the morale of the crew down, Shackleton grabbed him and said, you can't do that. He took hold of him and said, you can't do that. Shackleton was a great authority. And the guy says, really sorry, I won't do it again. Went and did it again. So Shackleton took him to one side, put him in a separate tent, and kept him away from all the men, just separated him. He wouldn't let them anywhere near him. Eventually, Shackleton and two of the other guys did this magnificent walk to safety. It was a walk that's never been repeated in history. It was this tremendous walk they did. And they said when there was two of them actually, when they were walking, they said there wasn't just two of us, there was a third party with us. They got rescued, They got home, and when they got back, each of these had suffered for 18 months, but all of them grew exponentially of the discipline they kept with the suffering.
Is this in the
There was one.
Antarctic? Was it?
There was just one particular scene. Sorry to interrupt you, Auntie. One particular scene that helped me. They took puppies with them because when they were gonna take the boat to a certain point, get off the boat, and by the time they got there, the puppies would be grown and they were going to pull the sleds. But because they got stuck in the ice, and they weren't able to do that, they had to kill the puppies because they got no food. They had to kill the puppies to eat them. And the guy that brought the puppies and that was looking after them was heartbroken, but he knew it had to be done. When he came back, um, uh, they said he retired and bought a pub. And every day he bought himself two puppies, and every day he walked down to the sea with these two puppies. But he was a different man. He was a bigger man. He was an expanded man because he'd endured the suffering. He was bigger because of the suffering, not despite it. But I felt such peace, not just because they all come back expanded. That really inspired me, but the fact that it was saying beyond this turmoil, there will be peace.
Mm.
And I just felt such peace from it. That came because I asked a tree. So it's everything becomes your teacher. Everything becomes your teacher.
Yeah. So was that in the Antarctic? Was it Shackleton?
I think it was the Antarctic. Yeah, the book was called Endurance,
Yes.
and his ship was called Endurance, and
Yeah.
it was about endurance. Because sometimes when you're suffering, all you can do is endure.
Yeah.
But if you know why you're enduring, and if you know that there is energy in the suffering, and that energy can be converted just through the endurance, if
Yeah.
you know there's purpose in that, then you're much more likely to embrace the suffering and lean into the sharp edges.
I mean, uh, Alex, the PT you've done
Yeah,
your podcast with, I was watching his podcast again with you the other day, and he asked you a question in the beginning, and he said, "Oh, why? What's the point of all this suffering?" And then you replied, "It gives you purpose, or it's how would you phrase that with suffering and purpose, just for someone who's suffering at the moment and they can't see
yeah.
light. So it's not
It's just
despite of the purpose. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, it's just my understanding of it is evolving all the time. So now we see if you're looking at say someone like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was like a paleontologist who studied how the Earth evolved, but he was also a priest, and he was a brilliant mind. And he talks about the fact um, that there is massive energy in suffering, and that if we know there's energy in it and we can find a direction for that energy, then it no longer becomes suffering. We still have to endure it, but we have to change it. We have to recognize that it is an energy, a very powerful energy, and within that energy, there is a process of conversion.
Okay.
It's lovely. There's a process of conversion so that we can create light with it.
Yeah.
Um, in in the um, uh, in the Quran, Muhammad talks about this by using the word sabra, which means impact. And he said, "There's nothing better happens to anybody in their lifetime than sabra, than suffering.
Mm.
As long as you know that that suffering is going to enable you to convert it into massive expansion, massive light. So beyond that turmoil, there's going to be depth, there's going to be understanding, there's going to be wisdom.
Yeah.
So we've got to look at it and go, well, I'm in this suffering and I'm not quite sure how to get out of it. So I'm just going to learn as much as I can from it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to drive it into some kind of service. I'm going to drive it into a business. I'm going to put it into a book. I'm going to put it into teaching. I'm just going to go out and dig my garden. I'm going to find a place. This is an energy. It's looking for an outlet, and I'm going to give it an outlet. And while it's there, I am going to endure it, knowing that I am going to grow from this. And when I look back, this will probably be the best thing that ever happened to me. Certainly, that was what the case with my own suffering. Massive learning from it. We
Yeah.
need to understand the purpose of the suffering. The purpose of the suffering is growth and not knowledge and love. So we need to grow in knowledge and love. So we don't know what it means. We don't understand why we got it. So there's your door of inquiry. We go in and we ask, why is this here? What am I going to do with this? What can I do with this?
And when you
How
tell
can I
people,
change this?
sorry to interrupt you, Jeff, again. And then when you tell people your stories from your own suffering, it's like you're converting, you can help them convert their own then, or you can
Yeah.
help show them,
Yeah.
it's
It gives
possible.
them a purpose. Purpose is light. Purpose is spirit. It means logos. It means it's the light of God. Logos is a spark of God. It's a spark of wisdom. You, when we're talking, we literally give that to somebody. Somebody's going to watch this now and feel that. So you, when we met before, you had that spark of light, and that's led you on to find teachers, find systems, find Rosalind, and eventually all of those things will lead you back to the one instructor that you need, the one tutor that you need.
Yeah.
And that one tutor might still send you out. I'm still being sent out to books and to, you know, to study and to experience, to help me to understand the things I'm learning. Sometimes, you know, I need to pick up a book to understand what's happened to me. So if you imagine I might have an experience, and it might be like a concept nucleus, it might be like a little seed of knowledge that needs to be opened and expanded, and the books help me to do that. So you know.
So you mentioned you're still going out. What have you been up to in the physical world, like in the last couple of years? You still making films and books, and where
Still
can I
making
watch these
films.
films as well? Because I still want to watch the Orlando Bloom one. I can't see where to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's called Retaliation,
Yeah,
and you can buy it from any video shop.
just back from videos.
Yeah, you can buy it from any
We're
video shop.
typing online.
Yeah, just type in Retaliation
Oh,
Orlando Bloom, and you'll be able to order it on Amazon.
okay,
So
all
you can
right.
get that. And most of the films I've done are online. I've just done a film called An Angel on Oxford Street, which is, uh, you know, kind of hitting the international market at the moment. It's on all the festival circuit.
That when you met that homeless girl
Mm.
street, and then you gave her some clothing and stuff. Or was that
Oh, the
something?
homeless guy. Yeah, yeah. That was a concept nucleus. That was a tiny incident that created this one film, and from out of that film, I've written 800,000 words since that incident about overcoming evil with good.
Yeah,
Evil as a privation, evil as something that's not whole.
yeah.
So from that one incident, that was a concept nucleus. I've written a film that's gone international, and I've written 800,000 words, or they've come through me. So if you imagine like the incident was an acorn, and within the acorn is the potential of an oak tree. So an oak tree's been coming out of me for the last 3 years. But as they say with an oak tree, each acorn contains the the DNA of the whole oak tree. But when you grow that oak tree, you know, maybe 200 foot tall, 500 years old, that oak tree has the potential to fruit another million acorns.
Mm,
And each of those million acorns also can produce another million acorns. So in other words, it's infinite. Our ability to knowledge and love is infinite. So the universe wants to expand in knowledge and love. And if we can get in line with that, and we can do the work and help it to do that, it will favor us. It will fall into us. So the people out there who are suffering now, here's what a Buddhist teacher told me through one of my studies. Lean into the sharp edges,
yeah.
turn into the curve, swallow the poison. When
Yeah.
you get the message, put the receiver down,
Mm,
turn into it. We know when you're doing the weight training that the growth is in the burn, isn't it?
yeah.
You know? We know that health, if people want to be healthy, the burn is palate, getting palate right. Light eating is the most good doctors will tell you that the secret to longevity is light eating, very light eating, clean palate.
Yeah.
But that's a burn. Doing that is very difficult because we have 10 parts of us that want to eat and overeat and indulge.
Yeah.
So it's about learning to be in comfort. I used to produce t-shirts with "there's no growth in comfort" on.
Mm,
There's no growth in comfort.
yeah. So
So we avoid that.
with the food though, and you're saying reduce lighter, how do you balance it with enough energetic demands? So say you're a very active person like I am in my job and stuff, and then I've got to come home and create all these programs and do mental stuff, and then got a new baby as well. How do you balance getting enough of the right amount of calories in say just a light in like say one meal or just a lighter meal?
Yeah, but that's we think we need loads of food, but if I'm going out and digging the garden, and putting 2 hours of physical labour in, I'll probably eat more than I normally do.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting at
Fuel
the desk.
fits the demand.
Yeah, yeah. So, but also only your own inner tutor can tell you that.
Yeah.
That's through experimentation. I know exactly what I can eat and what I can get away with. I know when I can eat a bit more. I know when I need to eat a bit less. If I'm doing a podcast like I did, I'm doing a podcast with you today. So I'm going to expend a couple of hours of energy. I have porridge before I do the podcast. Even if it was a fast day, I would still have porridge because
Yeah.
I'm fueling this. I'm going to physically fuel
Okay.
this.
Like it's like going on a journey, isn't it? Your body is a spaceship. You fuel
Yeah,
the ship before it goes on
yeah,
the journey. Fuel it after when the spaceship's resting and the body's resting, and you don't have to have fuel, and then you can exercise
yeah,
your
yeah.
will then, can't you? And just say, right, no, we don't
Just
need to.
yeah.
You know?
Just
You're
thinking about
conserving
you going on a
energy.
car journey. I'm going to London, so I'm going to need to put 20 quid of petrol in.
Yeah.
And if you don't put it in, the car will break down. The body's a bit more subtle, but you'll experience it. So it's knowing your own body, knowing what your body needs, and that's going to come, like I said, from experimentation, from making mistakes, perfecting it, but mostly from listening. After one of my major epiphanies, I knew exactly what to eat. I knew exactly when to eat. I knew exactly what not to eat, and I knew what I could eat a lot of, and I knew what I could eat nothing of. And some of it might not look particularly good on on someone that was going to write me out of diet. But
Yeah.
I knew what my body needed, I knew what my body wanted. It didn't want meat. It didn't want fish. It didn't want dairy. It wanted me to completely reduce that in order to expand in consciousness. It wanted me to find the highest possible fuel to service my soul and my
So
body.
do you reckon I could go within and just ask my higher self to write me a diet plan, a
Yeah,
nutrition plan, and say,
yeah.
I'm a bit unsure on this. Can you give me exactly the right amount and type of fuel that I need so I can sort of let this go about that and have no misconceptions and just
Yeah.
work how I need to work to serve you?
If
I'm
you've
not-
got that relationship with you and the guru, yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
keep developing that
And you
always.
develop that through the meditation, and it will speak to you through intuition. You'll just know.
You just know you won't.
I just knew that, there were certain foods that I
But
didn't need to have.
And one thing that so from a hero's journey, one thing two sort of not conflicting but sort of separate ideas was so Rosalind told me to let go of being obsessive, and it's about quality, not quantity. But Nelson from Hero's Journey told me you could miss a meal, but don't miss a meditation. How do I reconcile that?
You reconcile that by saying, if you're going to drive to London in your car, put petrol in,
Yeah,
and your meditation is your petrol.
yeah,
That's your fuel. When you go into a meditation, you're not just getting instruction, you're getting food, you're getting manna. So, when you go to London in a car, there's nothing to reconcile. You either put fuel in or it breaks down.
mm,
And it's exactly the same with meditation. Meditation, for those adepts in the know, is the fuel you need for the journey. And if you're going to be doing more spiritual work, you need more fuel. So you
yeah.
need to be in they call it being in constant prayer. So we're constantly
Mm.
connecting to that. Just like if you were in a car and you were driving around all the time, you need to constantly be in connection with some kind of fuel source.
And fa
So
and
this is a spiritual fuel.
And then fasting heightens your consciousness, your spiritual energy, does it?
Yes, fasting is a very powerful exercise of the will. It gives a whole digestion a rest so that you're conserving energy, but mostly it's about an exercise of the will. The will is the working arm of the soul, and
Yeah.
it's just an exercise in eating less because we all of us, most of us eat too much all the time for the wrong things. We don't eat to fuel ourselves. We eat because we enjoy it. I'm not saying don't enjoy your food. I love my food, but
Yeah.
I'm very, very careful about what you eat. And it was a battle. Some of the things I had to let go of, which
Yeah.
my inner tutor guided me towards very gently. When I let go of it, well, not always gently, but when I let go of it, it was very difficult to let go of it. But once I was out of it, I realized I hadn't given anything up, Anthony. I'd escaped it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've escaped it. I've escaped that constant battle with food, that constant urge to eat, that constant urge to masturbate, that constant urge to have sex,
Or
constant urge for validation, a constant urge for more ticks. I've got a shit morning because 10 people have took themselves off my Insta page or something, and I'm really high because 20 people have come on.
I'm still a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah, yeah. So that people pleasing, obviously, um, it kind of devours energy, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
we get rid of that. We look at that and go, "Oh, that's okay. That's the source of fuel." And
Mm.
your soul will direct you to that and go, "Look, there's fuel lost in here. It's eating fuel, but it's also containing fuel. So if you can convert that
Yeah.
by no longer people pleasing, by learning to say
Yeah.
no."
But in essence, that sort of got me into this job because if I didn't want to please people, I wouldn't care enough to try and find them solutions to heal themselves or get fitter or
Maybe that was an interim truth.
yeah, that
Maybe it's an
got to
interim truth.
it's time to let
So
go of it.
so
I
you'll
know it
be,
doesn't serve me anymore. It's just that
yeah. Well,
probably
it's,
for a while.
if it
And
got you in there, it's an interim truth. It got you to there. That's okay.
yeah,
So now you're there. The truth changes. The truth keeps evolving. So your job isn't to please your clients. If I was trying to please the people I'm mentoring, I wouldn't be any good for them. I'm there to tell them the truth.
yeah,
So I'm not there to please them. I'm only the only person I want to please is God. That's my source. So
yeah,
and I do want to please God, and that means I want to be in the rhythm of the Tao, in the rhythm of in the right vibration of the universe. But I'm not interested in pleasing my clients. I'm not interested in pleasing the people that read my work. I'm interested in telling the truth. But if wanting to please people gets you a certain part down the road, that's not bad.
yeah,
Anger's okay if it gets you out of a hole. If you can use the energy of anger to get you out of a hole, that's good. But it's not good in our normal everyday life.
yeah,
Anger is a higher energy than um, you know um, being depressed and being kind of lethargic. So you suddenly get this rage and it gets you out of a hole. You don't want to stay in rage, but it gets you out of a hole. It's an energy that's converted.
mm,
So the more you grow, the more your soul will teach you, and the more this information will become refined. So interim truths are okay, but they are interim truths.
yeah,
I'm going to have to go, Bab. I'm really sorry. I can't believe we've gone nearly 2 hours.
yeah.
Good. It's good time.
I could chat to you all day, and it's great to see you again.
And it's good to see you. Could you let Gabriella have a link to this and we'll put it out on our page
Yeah, 100%.
when you
I'll
release
make
it?
sure she gets that. So
And send
yeah,
my love to Carl, won't you?
yeah, of course I will. Yeah,
And I'll say a prayer for him.
yeah,
And
definitely.
just double down on your meditation if you don't mind me offering you a bit of advice.
No, not at all.
You
Encourage.
only put you nobody you and nobody else listening should take my word for anything. If you trust me at all, just trust me enough to find your own inner tutor. Everybody's path is bespoke. Everybody's path is unique. Shouldn't be the same. But where you go for your information is the same place we all go. It's inside.
Yeah, yeah,
So make that the staple of your work, the meditation.
yeah. So develop acoustic clear clarity from
Yeah,
your inner tutor, which is your intuition,
absolutely.
which is
Yeah,
done through
you re,
meditation.
you remembered.
The moment, of course, I teach everyone. You've taught me so much that I just about the burn in the gym and that analogy, and
Yeah,
just I can't thank you enough for being like the first spiritual teacher that I've had, and I apply that with clients, and I've just adding so many bits to my bag.
that's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm
we're all
proud of you.
works in progress now.
What you're doing is great. It's really good. Listen,
Yeah,
remember, there's only one thing to please, and that's your highest self.
yeah.
That won't lead you wrong, but it will give you what you need, but
Yeah.
not necessarily what you want.
And one powerful concept that I've learned as well is you've what I used to sort of not before I learned this, it's sort of like I would cross over between, making progress and degressing, is that we have two options, excitement or temptation.
Mm,
So alcohol was temptation, excitement is going out to the Lake District, swimming in a new lake each month. And
mm,
we wake up and we have a vision of our future and it's exciting. We don't need these temptations, we let go of them.
no,
That's a
no.
powerful way of me staying on this path and
And
keeping.
it's a good way of converting the energy, Anthony, as well, because the energy, that lower energy, will be excited towards a higher energy, and it'll be converted by it. You
Yeah,
give it something better to go for, and it'll go for it.
yeah, 100%. All right, Geoff.
All
Thanks
right,
for your
mate.
time, and
All right, Bob.
I'll make sure you get that thing. Have a great day.
Thank you. Love to everybody.
But yeah, love to you, family as well. Take
Thanks,
care.
Dad. See you later.
Bye.